Hi, this is Duncan.
Beautiful.
This is Duncan Nisbet, the roving reporter for Let's Test. Here today with Steve Smith. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing well, Duncan. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's good. This is our second attempt at this conversation. A hiccup last time. Okay, so we're here to talk about Let's Test, what you're going to bring to Let's Test, and hopefully dig a bit deeper into some of the background of how you've ended up doing the satir work. So just want to start.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So
Okay.
let's test. You're doing a keynote.
Yeah, that's going to be a challenge. I was asked to do an experiential keynote, which we'll all do have an experience together, and then we're going to debrief that experience and bridge it into a larger question about whose ideas are in and whose ideas are out. I think it's going to be pretty doggone exciting. I got to admit, I don't know exactly how it's all going to work out at this point, but we're gonna go onward and see what happens.
So have you got some ideas
So
in
that's a scoop on the keynote.
mind?
Yeah,
Do you have a loose framework in mind?
I absolutely do have a loose framework. There's an exercise that has to do with scarcity that we're going to do in advance and experience. And then we're going to break into the people that do the exercise, and there's going to be lots. It's a scale issue here, and we're doing experiential exercises that can sometimes be a challenge. So we'll do debriefs in small groups that do the exercise together, and then we will eventually bridge up into closing remarks. But here's the thing that I'm looking forward to doing is to create a keynote where the keynote is really coming from the participants,
Right.
and the ideas discovered will be coming from the ideas that are from the discussions that happen down on the floor, and less about you Steve Smith and what he believes is true. I mean, there'll be a little of that, but I want to bring as much as I can to what people discover at the time, because I think that's the most um, powerful element of a discovery is what you discover yourself
Yeah.
rather than what you're told.
Including you, the facilitator, as well, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm going to learn more than anybody else. I guarantee that because I'm going to be looking at a meta level as how is all this stuff coming together. I've never done hundreds of people in an experiential exercise, so that'll be something for me to experience myself. So I think that's always true when you're leading an experiential exercise. You're experiencing something too. It's something that allows me to learn some things that I would never learn without that experience.
Yeah, I can say that must be a challenge, like the sheer number of people, because I was always on the
Oh
impression
my God, yes.
that 25 is a maximum. After that, there's too many interactions.
Yeah, well, that's the challenge, and that's also the fun of it to see if my design skills are up to that thing. I certainly do have some knowledge of how to scale stuff up into the dozens, but this is a new scale. I think the biggest thing I've done experientially would be about 60 people. I think I'd say
Okay.
that's about right, 60. So this is uh, potentially up to 4 or 5 times that many
Yeah,
people.
yeah. I'm picturing if it was dramatized, there'd be big kind of music in the background and a narrator. Attention. This is the first time this has ever been
Yeah,
done.
yeah, it would be. Yeah, it definitely would be.
Yeah. And so, do you have kind of any ideas if it's not going or not to plan? That's the wrong word, but if it's not going as you had hoped or in a direction you'd hoped.
Well, that's always possible, and we're going to process whatever happens. That's the key to experiential is you go with what's really happening rather than trying to force something to happen.
Yeah.
I don't have a real preconceived idea of exactly what will happen. I don't know. That's the excitement of it, is that it's unknown what people will experience doing this simulation that we're going to do. and what their reaction to that is and what their insights are going to be from that. So we'll just process what happens, and we'll just have to declare that it's good. I suspect it's a lot like testing.
Yeah.
You might have some ideas, but you've discovered some things that you didn't suspect.
Oh, you'd hope so, wouldn't you? Yeah. It's all learning.
No, I hope so too. I guess testing wouldn't have a lot of value if you didn't discover some things that weren't expected.
No, that's
So
it.
it's really about how do you respond to what's discovered. I find, for me, it's how am I going to respond to the group if the group's struggling?
Yeah.
What am I going to do? And part of it is just to go along, because sometimes the struggle is where the deep learning is.
Of course, yeah, that makes sense.
So we want some amount of struggle, but we don't want total struggle. We want some chaos, but not total chaos.
Yeah.
I think it'll come together naturally or nicely. We'll just have to see.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It'll be good.
No, I'm excited about doing it. Very excited about doing it. As a matter of fact, I've got a number of sessions that I'm excited about doing with the testing community, because I find the testing community to be a very eclectic group of individuals.
Yeah.
Highly creative and very people-oriented. And I think people that haven't been in touch with this community don't realize the amount of creativity and the amount of people orientation that testers have. And that's why I think it's going to be a great group. I mean, I was at the conference last year and did some Satir, did a session, one session with Satir, and then I did another session on what was the session on? It was about quality versus speed, and that was an intriguing session to see testers dig into some areas about making trade-offs on the shipping of products, which we're always doing, but it's amazing to me that we really don't offer much training around that. So that was fun to do last year, and I know that I'm going to be with a bunch of explorers when we do these workshops that I'm doing. I'm doing a workshop on the Satir change.
Yep. Oh, just broken up.
Directors, your personal board of directors.
So
both of those
we broke up.
Go ahead, Duncan. Sorry.
Sorry, we broke up.
Oh, we broke up.
We're doing a session on the Satir change model.
Yep. Doing a session on the change model, which I've done before, and another session I've done before on your personal board of directors. I've done it with other groups, and some of those groups had testers, and it was gangbusters fun. It was both are fun sessions and potentially deeply impactful, especially to the people, the person that is what I call the star, the person that has come and said they have some things that they want to work on, and we select who that is, and then that person works through a simulation, and all the people participate, have active roles in what we do, and it's really exciting. And a number of people that have gone to the conference have been to at least one or two of these sessions. So I encourage people that are considering going to one of these half-day tutorials to talk to some of the people at the conference that have experienced it. They're no better reference than the people that have actually experienced it.
Of course, yeah. So I know Satir for me has been, I want to say life-changing, but I don't know, being British, I shouldn't say things like that. But learning some of her ideas, has really been an eye-opener, and certainly applying it in the testing world. I was interested to know when you first came across Satir's work.
Well, it all came about through my study and with Jerry Weinberg. I did a problem-solving leadership workshop with Jerry in 1985, and I still look at my notebook from that workshop to this very day. As a matter of fact, I reviewed it a couple months ago. and most deeply impactful training or workshop that I'd ever had up until that point. And it set a course for me. So Jerry was not right about then. He was becoming familiar with Satir's work, and he brought that work to some future workshops that he did that I was also involved in. So I got into that orbit through Jerry of Virginia, and then I did a year-long program with Gene McClendon, who was Virginia's head trainer. So I did get some experience with Satir, and it's really deepened my appreciation for the people side of the business, and especially how vital that people are.
Yeah.
I think I always knew that, but I had an even deeper appreciation for if we didn't handle the people issues, our products were going to be not nearly what they could be. Maybe a better person too, in terms of my family and how I interacted. It's been all good. So that's all stemmed from my association with Jerry.
Yeah.
Which has been a wonderful association.
I bet, yeah. I mean, what you say there about we need to handle the people of a development team is so true, isn't it? I mean, if you see a development team is like a family in some respects. We spend so much time together, and we each bring our own individual problems and concerns, worries from our other family, and we bring it to our work family. And it's a wonder any software gets developed at all, isn't it? When you've got those many creative, like-minded people on one team working together just to get the same product out with different visions, different ideas. It's really handy, the tool shells, like the interaction model, certainly. And obviously the experiential session you run on that one, you were taking each person through an interaction. Again, I guess that was from PSL, was it?
And if I caught that right, Duncan, you were talking about last year's session. There's a little breakup on our connection.
Yeah. So
no, and you can't do anything about it. Neither can I. What I hope that people came away with, or at least one thing they came away with last year, that went to the session on the interaction model, and that anybody that can take this in, I hope that they take away the idea of how critical that self-esteem is in interactions. Is that if a person has high self-esteem when they're having an interaction, the interaction can be processed much differently than if the person's off balance, off centered, and their ability to take in and harmonize and consider what the item at hand is and what the other person's doing with and their own interest, and blending that together to create a better interaction is much higher. I mean, it's at its highest point with high self-esteem. A lot of the reasons that interactions go awry is because one or both parties has low self-esteem, and they're not able to process well the interaction that they would be able to process differently with higher self-esteem.
So they're responding
to working
defense.
Yeah, exactly. So that was a fun session last year. And from my angle, as somebody that's leading this session, the hard part was that the session was only an hour long. That's not very much time, and trying to involve all the people that are in the room into it was a challenge, but it worked out. I was very pleased in how it worked out.
I've got a question, if I may, about the interaction model.
Yeah, sure.
So in the experiential sessions I've done around interaction model, we always start with the intake. But my experience of applying the model, I tend to start with the feelings. So someone come up to me expressing anger or expressing concern, and I have to come back up to the intake without letting them know that I'm walking them through a model.
Oh yeah, you don't want to walk through the model. That's certainly a mistake I'm used to make all the time, and I probably still make it. But I think intake is the challenge for most people, and it's something that I would hope a software tester would have some insight into. Is that here's the key question for intake, and if you can feed this back to the other person, it could change the interaction just by saying what you observed. If you can clearly say, what did I see or what did I hear that led me to some interpretation, the whole interaction can change.
Yes.
And if all of a sudden, if you come across someone in there and you believe they're angry, and you say, you're angry, that's going to set a tone for the conversation that may not be a good one. If you can say, I notice that your eyes are very narrow, and that your face is puckered, and that you're talking a very deep tone. I feel, I'm interpreting that, I know how I feel. I feel threatened. If you can say what you feel, and it's like, hey, I feel threatened when I see those kind of signs.
Okay.
That can change things.
So you're
And
about your feelings rather than what you interpret.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
The only thing that we know for sure is how we feel.
Yes.
And we may not even know that. We have a better chance of being able to say what we feel, and we can say what we feel, and nobody can argue. They can argue all they want, but it doesn't do any good. You feel the way you feel, and you say what it is. It's true.
Yeah.
You can't be certain what the other person's feeling. It's an interpretation. And so I think that that's a big part of the interaction model, is to break away with the intake of actually making sure you're observing and that your interpretations are aligned with your observations, rather than you're only observing through the filter of what you believe is going on.
Yeah. So you peel away the behavior layer, because how they're behaving,
Yeah.
they might be hiding something of their true feelings. There's an incongruence, right?
All right. And let's face it, once you only see the tip of the iceberg on the top of an interaction.
Yeah.
What's going on inside that person, what's actually causing whatever the interaction to be, it could be about some other time and place. It may not have anything to do with the here and now.
Yeah.
It may be about, somewhere else in some other time completely.
And what about?
And that's part of, interaction, is being aware that to bring that person into the here and now. It's not to psychoanalyze them, is to make it clear, hey, I want to deal with the here and now rather than in the past in some other place, which is, I think you said earlier, that we all bring our family experiences into the workplace.
Yeah.
Well, our family experiences are also being processed through the workplace too. And sometimes people are responding to something that happened to them 20 years ago rather than what's happening right now.
Yeah.
So we want to bring them into the present and into the room that we're in, into the time. So that's, if you can pull it off, and you can't always pull it off, you're going to have a different interaction. And that's what we want. We want productive interactions rather than wasting our time.
Yeah.
At least that's what I want.
I think I brought that to the when I'm facilitating a workshop. I bring the check-in. I think Scott Barber announced it at one of the workshops in exploratory testing, and he's like saying people go on the check-in. People go around and say if they've got anything in their family life or their personal life that they need to keep in the foreground their emotions. So, like for example, my wife is pregnant. I would say, I just want to check in and say my wife is pregnant. I'm expecting a phone call, so apologies, I've got my phone on in a meeting. That kind of thing.
Right.
So then, when someone jumps out of the room answering their phone, they're not just being rude. There's a reason behind. I think that really helps. Yeah.
I think that's right on. I think that there's a couple elements that I like to think about if you're offering that to the room, to like a check-in. I have a version of that I asked the room, and I'll talk about something in a second, a direct effect on this, is that I asked the room, is there anything that's distracting you from that would prevent you from being fully present at this meeting for the next whatever the time period of the meeting is?
That's more concise.
Is there some phone call or something that you get that that the group would benefit from being aware of, that you're thinking about, or if it happens that you can just leave the room and everybody will know why you're leaving the room. So that's all good. The challenge, though, here's the challenge that I see, is do the participants feel safe enough to really tell people what's really going on?
Yeah.
And if they don't, they're not going to be able to do it. And they're not going to be able to do it. They're just not going to do it. They're going to give you the superficial BS that often happens and not really give you the real truth of what's going on. And we'd all benefit from having the truth, but the question is, can we take the truth? For instance, I could have a day where I'm just bored. I'd say, if I was being totally honest and somebody asked, is there anything distracting you from being fully present, I might chime in that, yeah, my history with this meeting is it's been boring.
Yeah.
And that I brought my computer in so I could check out, when nothing's going on that's worth listening to. So, but that level of honesty sometimes doesn't happen. But I think when it does happen, it's certainly a different conversation.
Yeah, that's it. I think it only takes one or two people to have the confidence to do it, to say it, for it then to be accepted as the kind of the norm, to say, well, it's okay to say that I've got stuff going on in my private life.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. There's more stuff that's going on in my life than it's happening in this room right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's a healthy thing to get out there. And so I think that, was it Martin you said that suggests that question? I forget which person. Scott Barber? Is it Scott Barber you said that?
I believe he.
Yeah, that's a great move. I applaud that move.
Yeah. And then I should stop asking questions about the model, but I love it. One of the stages is our defenses for responding.
Sorry, you broke up there. I didn't catch it.
In the interaction model, one of the stages is our defenses.
Yes.
Whether we blame, whether we put onto someone else. Does that always happen, or is that only in a coping stance? Because what if someone says, "Where's my defense?"
It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen when coming back to my first point that I made, but with self-esteem.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen at any level of amplitude when someone's self-esteem is really high. They can say, oh, I don't need to defend myself. When the defense is in there, and all of a sudden, the first question, if you're working with some other group on the interaction model, when you get to defenses, you go through the other stages, you just ask the defenses, do you feel like you need to defend yourself? And the answer is, if you have high self-esteem, the answer is usually no. I'm okay with whatever happened. Well, okay. No need to defend myself. It's good. I'm good. All right, then you can skip that step. No defense necessary.
Oh, good.
And you move on.
Excellent. And then, so this is just a general question about Satir. Reading different literature, different books, and I've not seen the question why being asked. So nowhere have I read why do you feel that way? I mean, is that significant that she avoided the word why, or am I just people haven't written it down?
Why is a difficult question for people to answer, because it could be based on just some feeling they have. Here's a question for you.
Okay.
Why don't you like garlic ice cream?
Because the taste lingers on my tongue after I've finished eating it.
I don't know if you've ever had garlic ice cream. I haven't, but this whole sound of it doesn't sound good to me. It does, the whole thing. It's not good, and I don't need to defend why it is. I just don't like the concept of garlic ice cream. Period. I got no why. I just don't like it. I don't need to investigate it any further. And I think that's the danger of the why question. You know, you could ask somebody, what do you think of the idea of garlic ice cream? I don't like it, you know. But you said, why don't you like garlic ice cream? I don't know how to respond. I have no real reason.
Okay.
So that's the danger of a why question. And almost, I say there are times to ask why. They got this analysis called the 5 whys, ask why 5 times. I think whys are better when it's purely about factual matters.
Okay.
Versus things that have to do with feelings. Why are you angry? You know, maybe if you felt safe enough, you'd be able to analyze it and do some good. Maybe. But somebody you don't know, somebody you don't feel safe, ask you, why are you angry? I don't know if that's going to take us where I'd want to go.
No.
I'm not sure, you know.
It seems like
One thing I am sure about, though, is that some people can ask questions that other people can't ask. And it works out fine. I've had a history of be able to ask people and do things that I know other people will get fired from if they do it. If they ask the same thing I ask, they get fired. But I can ask questions and for some reason be able to get away with it. I don't know why that is, but I know I'm not the only person that can do that, and there are other people that have this skill a lot greater than I do. I one time challenged a group about, because we were having zero productivity at a meeting, and this is a large aerospace company that I was doing some consulting with, and these meetings would go on and they never get through the agenda. They asked me to facilitate the meeting, and first meeting went well, and the next meeting, they started to go off in the weeds, and they did not want to steer back into productivity. I challenged the group. I said, well, if all you guys want to do is talk, why don't we go to a bar, and at least we can have some drinks while we're just talking. Yeah. And I almost got fired. Close. I'm sure I could have got fired, but I didn't. Actually, the group went along with me and said, all right, we need to steer back and make these things stay focused on what we're talking about and come back. We can be able to table things and come back to them later rather than we've got to discuss it right now.
Right. And do you think
part of that is, I think I got off of your why thing a little bit, but know this about people is that some people can do things that some people can ask a why question, and I'm sure it flows very naturally. They have some skill or experience doing it, and they know when to do it, and they can time it so it works. Maybe you can learn it, and maybe you can't, because it's more than just the word. It's when the word's played and how it's played is just as important.
That's it, yeah. So imagine if you're asking the question why with a pointed finger, you're going to get a different response.
Yeah, exactly.
So open palms. Yeah. Okay, quality. I haven't got any more questions on Satir. I've just been studying it quite a lot at the moment. I find it fascinating. So, is there any more you want to talk about Satir? Seeing as I've picked your brains a lot.
I'd say a little bit about Satir's work. I unfortunately didn't get to meet Virginia in person because she passed away right before a workshop that I was supposed to go with her.
Right.
I do know this, though, from training with her students of hers, Jerry Weinberg in particular, and Gene McClendon, another person, and I'm a member of the Virginia Satir Global Network. Virginia has an unbelievable knack of being able to draw people in, and she had just as equally uncanny knack of being able to, I don't know if it's uncanny, I think she just got herself highly skilled at making things simple so that anyone could understand her work.
Yeah.
I think sometimes her work doesn't get as much credit as it should in the family therapy thing is because it's simple and her models are simple, that anybody can pick them up, versus some academic model that's very difficult to understand. I think people are given more credit for making things difficult in the academic community than they are for making things simple. So I think Virginia's work is under-recognized. The thing is that I would send a message to the people in the testing community that is you can pick up Virginia's work and apply it to what you're working on a day-to-day basis at work and at home, really simply. And I suggest that anybody that's interested in Virginia's work, or even has a modest interest in it, buy a book that you can get through Amazon, an ebook, and it's also on iTunes. It's called Making Contact. Simple, short book. You could read it in probably an hour, and that you could reread it the rest of your life and learn something every time you reread it. Virginia was really good at making things that people could grab them and use them. And that book is full of those, of insights in how you can improve your life and how you can help yourself have better interactions with other people. Love that book.
Yeah, I have to say, it's been like a novel. So I've dipped into Satir at a high level from blog posts and from your experiential sessions and PSL. But then I've picked up a book, is it Family Therapy? So it's not Virginia's book, it's a bunch of guys written it about Virginia's work. And I think probably her trainers. And it's just amazing how quickly you can dig into the subplots, the subcontext that she was going on as well. So you can understand it at a high level and have some benefit from it immediately. And then as soon as you want to start digging down deeper, it's still easy to pick up. As you say, it's simple, but different levels.
Yeah, I think her work has I think one of the reasons it resonates with me is it's very similar to the work, Jerry Weinberg's work.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I have most of Jerry's books, I think. Probably. If I don't have them all, I'm close. I don't know if I have all his early books. But his books, if I pull out, for example, the quality software management, and I pull out one of his books, now I have all the e-books, I think. So I pull up my Kindle on my Kindle app or on my Kindle, and I pull up one of his books. I can open that book to almost anywhere, and within probably 2 minutes of starting it, I'll find something interesting, and I'll find something that I hadn't gotten from the last 2 times I looked at the book.
Yeah.
I read the book. Every time I pull up one of his books, I get an insight. And it's the same thing with Virginia's work. And it's not because it's complex or complicated on the surface. It's not that. I think both Weinberg and Satir are brilliant at expressing concepts very simply and understandably to people.
Yeah.
But there's a deepness in their work that I think happens with more experience, that you see some things in the work that you didn't see before because you have more experiences to draw from. At least that's the way it works for me. That every time I go, oh, now I get it. I get a different level of it. Oh, now I get what he meant by that. I could parse all day long his thing on just a simple thing, like I go with one of Jerry's simple things is quality is valued to some person.
Yeah.
You could spend a week analyzing that and getting out what that means and the nuances in that. And that's what I love about his work. And the same thing applies to Virginia's work.
That's it.
So I'm inviting people to both, discover Virginia if they haven't discovered her before, and discover Jerry Weinberg if they haven't discovered Jerry Weinberg before. Because what's brilliant about both of their works is that they are timeless. Yeah. Jerry didn't write his books for, the latest trendy stuff. He wrote his books that people will be reading his books 50 years from now and going, oh my God, that's amazing. He understood that way back then. Yeah. Brilliant stuff. Same thing applies to Virginia. So, but Virginia was a really, sorry, I'm I'm going on and not letting you ask your question. Go ahead and ask your question.
No, just to touch on that, Jerry wrote a post a few years back where he just did a find and replace. He replaced the word structured with the word agile in his post and
Yeah.
changed nothing else. And the post still read beautifully. So that's like excellent.
Oh, yeah, absolutely it does. I mean, I work with a lot of clients in the agile space. And what we're redoing is we put it into a new context, but it's the same. A lot of them are the same concepts that were probably happening, in the 18th century.
Yeah.
And somebody probably wrote about them. But we have to rediscover this stuff all the time. And I guess this is the way it is. We just, the people all of a sudden see the value of certain things, and somebody takes some old work and twists it around and makes it look like it's relevant to this new trendy thing.
Yeah.
I don't find as much value in that. I know that if I go through Jerry's work, I'm going to find stuff that's stood the test of time.
Yeah.
You really wouldn't mind, Duncan. I could probably talk to you for a couple days.
That's it. It's a good indication of Virginia Satir's and Jerry Weinberg's deep understanding of their domain. That means that as you learn more about domain, you understand more of the concepts. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. I think that also, though, there is something about the personalities of these people that are involved. I think both Jerry and Virginia had a unbelievable desire to spread their work to other people.
Yeah.
And they were good and are good. Jerry's continuing. Same thing is true now. That's been true since I first met him, is that he is good at marketing his work.
Yeah.
He is always out there, always marketing his work, which I admire. And I'm not wired like Jerry is. Jerry's making sure that people are aware of what he does at all times, which is wonderful. And I think Virginia did the same thing with her work. And even bigger than that, you can put the stuff out there. But there's something about the personality of both these individuals that drew other people to them. And it was more than their work. It was something about their character that attracted and caused people to go into an orbit around them. Some people used to say that, what was the thing about that Jerry Weinberg was like, it was the Borg. And if you're familiar with Star Trek, there was the Borg. And if you got involved with Jerry, you got into this Weinborg, that kind of thing, where you were assimilated into the Borg.
Yeah.
I don't think you were assimilated into the Borg, because I could definitely be guilty of that, is that Jerry is a guy with so much character and so much congruence, and yet a human guy that, people were naturally attracted to the way he looked at the world. And he wanted, well, at least I surmise that he wanted to be with other people and to help other people. And he did, and he continues to do so. Amazing. The same thing's true with Virginia. I think that's probably why Jerry was attracted to Virginia. I remember I visited Jerry back when he first was introduced to Satir's work, and he told me that he was looking to study some of the things that came out from family therapy and psychology, and he was looking for people that were the pioneers in that field. And at that time, there weren't very many of the pioneers that were still alive, and Virginia was still alive, and he felt it was important to go to the source,
of course,
and learn from the source, and he did so. And Virginia attracted him in just like his students and colleagues were attracted to Jerry. Same kind of thing, same kind of whatever it was. There were some knowledge that the person had that was willing to share not only did the person, Jerry, have knowledge and Virginia have knowledge, but they were willing to share, and they were great teachers. That's another underestimated thing about both of them. They were both great teachers.
Yeah.
So it's a wonderful thing, and they both did experiential stuff. Isn't that an interesting thing? They both were experiential.
Yeah, they definitely added a lot to the world in which they were spinning.
Oh yeah, I think I didn't realize at the time I gave Jerry an award from the Satir Global Network.
Right.
And I was thinking that Jerry had affected hundreds of people, individually. And the real truth is that one of my colleagues, Becky Winant, said that no, she is absolutely right. Jerry has affected probably thousands of people personally. Affected thousands of people. That's amazing. Same way with Virginia. It's amazing. I think about it, the impact of being able to actually say that they personally worked with thousands of people. Amazing. I bet couple hundred, maybe if I was lucky. Jerry's had thousands. Same way with Virginia. And then those people have affected other people in positive ways. So I'm big on pay forward, and that's what Jerry's been doing his whole life. Virginia did her whole life, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to pay forward, pay to the next people that can pass on the good things that have been discovered by the people that I've learned from.
Yeah, they've set the high bar.
Oh, my God, yes. My gosh.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. That's a real good thing.
I enjoyed that diversion. Right, so you last time we spoke, you threw out a question regarding TDD, test-driven development. Do you want to throw that out again to the wider audience?
Yeah, well, sure. I'm inviting people to talk to me about TDD at the conference because in the consulting group that I work in, there's a lot of people that think that TDD seems to be like a religion. And that, this is the only way you do things. And if you do this thing, then therefore you'll have no bugs. And I just laugh. I go, yeah, right. You have no bugs. I just laugh. I just say, yeah, that's in your dreams, dude. Maybe you've discovered some secret sauce that I don't know about, but I can't believe that. I've actually challenged people. I go, I'll get a programmer, and I haven't programmed as a professional in years, but I bet you if I go through your code, I can find some bugs. So no one's taking me up on the challenge. So I'm curious to talk to people about, well, I think TDD, from what I can see, is a good thing. I don't have anything against it, and I think it fits certain types of developers, and it doesn't fit other types of developers. I'd like to talk about that. And I also like to talk about what's TD not doing that needs to be done in the testing sphere. I think the software testers in the organization I've worked for don't have as much influence as devs do.
Yeah.
And certainly not as much as managers do. So I'd like to help with, if there's a message that needs to come out around TDD, as far as software testers believe is important, I'd like to be someone that shares that message with people that I interact with software teams.
Brilliant.
And I just don't know what the message is. I'm not sure what it is. I'm certain that the testing community doesn't believe TDD solves all the problems.
No, it certainly doesn't.
Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I don't think so.
Yeah,
Otherwise, we'd be having a conference on TDD, not on Let's Test.
Yeah, that's it. I think the focus is on test-driven design, as in it's not testing, it's design. Yeah, okay.
I think a lot of these. Never mind. I'm speculating here. That's the thing I would love to talk to people about. Their thoughts on test-driven development. Educate me. That's what I'm asking of people at the conference. Educate me. I need a lot of education.
Yeah.
I can be taught. So please teach me.
Excellent. So that's it. So they can just come and grab you at the conference and just
Yeah,
talk at
I'm
you about
usually.
TBD?
Yeah, well, here's the thing about me, or at least if I continue my trend, and this tends to be almost always true, is that I'm usually the first person to the breakfast table in the morning. So if you want to talk to me, just come to breakfast early because I'll usually be the first one into the eating in the room. At least I was last year.
That's it. It's very early
So
for you, isn't it?
if you want to chat with me, come in early because that's what I'm there for, is to talk to people.
Fantastic. So get your grey matter ready early morning doors, yeah?
Yeah, well, I'm a morning person, so I'm ready in the morning. I don't expect everybody else to be ready in the morning. You know, there are people that are morning people and there are evening people. Usually when it starts getting late, it's time for me to go to bed.
That's it.
I'm at my best in the morning.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm a night owl.
There you go.
Yeah. It's good. It works though because the wife's a morning person. So when we had the girls, she would do like the early shift and I would do the late shift. So
Yeah, there you go.
I'd be great going to bed at
That
2 o'clock
works.
in the morning, but if I had to wake up at 3 in the morning, I'd feel sick and awful. Anything. So right, I'm
I
going to have
get
to
up
draw
at
this to a
4
close. Sorry, Steve.
regularly. I
Sorry.
get up at 4, regularly to go work out. So that just shows you how deep of a morning person I am.
That's really early morning. There's only one
I go
thing.
to bed early too, though. So
Right, Steve, I'm going to need to wrap up because I've got people glaring at me through the window.
Oh, no problem. It was great to talk to you, Duncan. Always a pleasure. Look forward to seeing you at the conference.
Definitely.
Look forward to seeing whoever's viewing this at the conference. And please, join me early for breakfast or grab me when I'm walking around the conference. I'd love to chat with people.
Perfect. Thanks again, Steve. Thanks for your time, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Okay, great, Duncan. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
See you shortly.
Bye.
Bye-bye.